The whole story of Bremont started a long time ago, far further back than 2002. It basically started with our father, who, like a lot of fathers, inspire their children in various ways. Our father was an aeronautical engineer from Cambridge and spent a whole lot of time in the workshop making things. So invariably we were thrown out by our mother to spend time in the workshop and spend time making things with him. So things range from boats, planes, cars, airplanes, vintage airplanes which we still fly, we built with him. But one of these things he used to get us into were old clocks, and he collected watches as well. So find old grandfather clocks from auctions and then see if we could get them running again, which invariably we didn't, but it meant we were kept quiet for many hours on end. This sort of time we spent in the workshop then just made us very keen on all things mechanical really, and that's where our sort of love of watches started. There are a lot of Swiss watch brands out there, but a huge amount claim to have these histories, long histories of we've been going for 300 years, we're going for 200 years, and what you realise, a lot of them have been reinvigorated over the last 20 years. Brands that were big in the past have been dormant for a while and then restarted, and we didn't want to do that. We wanted to start a new brand which could stand on its own two feet and say, actually, this is a watch which on its own merits is a bloody good watch. So that's where it started. Our surname's English, but having a new British watch brand with a name English would have been slightly difficult to trademark, and the irony of putting missed on quite a few people. So for us it came down to a trip. So it was in '97. It's a couple of years after I had an accident with my father when he was killed in a plane crash. My brother and I were flying down through France, and we had a precautionary landing in a field. It was an old 1930s German biplane we were flying at the time. We landed, and this old guy came out to help us. If you land in America or England in an old airplane, you buy the farmer a bottle of whiskey or something, apologise for wrecking his crop, and everything's really cool, perhaps take his wife for a flight. In France, whilst the landing's fine, it gets very bureaucratic in terms of taking off. So this chap came to help us out. We ended up spending the night there, and a couple of nights after that, pushed the airplane into his barn, and we walked in, and it was, because our father had died a couple of years previously, this was like seeing our father, had he been 30 years older, 78 years old, really into his mechanical things, and he flew in the Free French during the Second World War, so the flying connection was there, and his name was Antoine Bremont. So when it came to naming the watch, it was very much with him in mind as well as our father. When we started the brand, we wanted to produce a watch which could be used in the boardroom, but could be used up Mount Everest, literally those sort of extremes. And a lot of watches that look great in a sort of work environment don't particularly perform brilliantly outside of that. And the reverse is also true. If you're with your Casio G-Shock on the mountain, whilst it may work brilliantly there, it might not look so luxury, perhaps is the word, in other environments. So we wanted to produce this watch which could go through the whole sort of spectrum. It literally took 4 or 5 years to get to that stage, and a lot of that was testing. So a lot of our ambassadors are guys who initially helped test the watch, but also have come on board since. So the Ben Saunders, very famous polar explorer, is off just doing the Scots trip at the moment, down to Antarctica and back, 1,800 miles by himself without being resupplied. The Kenton Cools climbed Everest 11 times. You've got Jake Mayer, the youngest guy to climb the 7 summits, and all these watches have been tested. But if you're a polar explorer, for example, you can't wear a digital watch or a quartz watch on your wrist because it's battery, and within a day or so the battery's flat. So they actually do use a mechanical watch still to navigate, because you can't keep bringing out GPSs, and so they actually use it as a tool. So for Ben, for example, we've just designed this new watch, which is a GMT function, which is fully titanium, a very lightweight watch, and they do see it as a very important part of their equipment. And again, for us, in terms of learning to work with these guys, in terms of development and testing, is just fantastic. One of the biggest things that Giles and I have been spending a lot of time recently, and also in the last few years, is bringing watchmaking back to the UK. So we've got this new facility in Henley where we have our 20-odd watchmakers making these things, putting these things together. And what we're going through now is more development with new CNC machines, cases, buckles, movement parts, all this sort of stuff, hands dials, all being made in the UK, which for us is very, very exciting. And that's where we want to go.